to another episode of Outcasts to Icons. It feels like ages since I've actually recorded anything, basically, because it is Monday now when I'm recording this, and the last time I did anything recording-wise was last Thursday, so it's been a little while, and I basically did that so I could give myself the weekend while I was in that transfer period with Spartak, because I really wanted to sit down and make a tactic, and I have spent so long on this, I couldn't. Yeah, and as always, guys, if you are enjoying the series, please do drop a like on the video. But yeah, as I was saying, like, oh god, like I spent ages on Saturday, and then I scrapped it, and then I've spent the last, a long time today working on an entirely new shape, and I'm happy with it. Obviously, it needs work, and you're going to understand. I'm going to explain to you why I think that it's not complete yet. Usually, I would give myself a full pre-season, and that would be fine. I should have a tactic pretty solid by then. But what I haven't done so far, I did it when I haven't actually built a tactic from scratch myself since my Portsmouth save. Like, obviously with, any of the tactics we've used, it's always kind of been you guys suggesting stuff, me doing it. And that's always very good. The problem with that is, when things go wrong, because I don't understand exactly why what you've got works when it does, it's difficult to make changes based on that. And that's why building your own tactic is so important. Now, what I'm going to say, guys, you will probably see something in the description of this video too. Not the description, like my comment on it or something. Basically, I'm going to talk about tactics now for probably the next sort of 10, 12 minutes, because I want to take you through exactly how I built the tactic. So if that's something you're quite interested in, and because I do get comments sometimes, and not that I'm pretending I'm any good at this, but I wanted to show you how I did it. That way some of you that may be new to the game might be able to at least not pick any tips from me, because believe me, none of this stuff is original, but at least sort of work out a methodology of how you can sort of start to build a tactic, basically. So that's sort of what I'm going to do. So yeah, skip ahead if you're not interested in the tactical side of things. So basically what we did, in fact, we're going to just jump straight into it now, because I've got some other stuff to talk about. We'll come back and we'll talk about that after. That way the people don't miss stuff if they've skipped it. So basically, this is the shape we're going for. Now, it's a little bit different. It's a 4-3-2-1, essentially. Now, the problem is we didn't have a lot of width in the team, so I have actually had to bring in someone to play to get the width. In fact, both of the players on the wings are both brand new, but one of them was signed pre me joining and just joined when in the end he had to join. Now, that isn't our first strength team. We do have some players that are out still, irritatingly. Most irritatingly of all is Piev, who's not quite fit yet, and Matteo Botani, and I'll talk to you about him in a minute because he's going to be bloody amazing. So basically, what I did, this is how we basically went about it. Now, I read a post on the SI forums by a poster called Dr. Hook about lower league management. Now, I wouldn't really consider this that lower league, but I think the tactics can still apply. And basically, he's talking about the way you set up one of these teams. And now, I'd always been one for the kind of fluid attacking approach to things, basically. And it's kind of, I think that's part of the issue when we've been doing this, is the sort of fluid attacking approach just doesn't work at this level often. Not that I'm saying it can't, but for me it hasn't. And I decided to go for a much more structured system, basically. And in so doing, so we decided, I decided what we were going to do. We wanted to play short passing, keeping lots of possession and decent pass completion, just trying to sort of keep the ball and fashion opportunities, but without having unretained possession, because that, for me, I find that you just hang on to the ball for no reason. You can get 65% possession in a game comfortably without having retained possession on, if you play it right, basically. I didn't want too many team instructions. I started off with 4, and I've added 2 more since then because of my testing, basically. But basically, the sort of system, I'll take you start from the back. So basically, we're going with a sweeper keeper for the moment, just because those long balls that get the defenders miss them sometimes. I want to have a keeper that can actually get those, and he's not a bad keeper. I mean, for me, he's our best choice keeper. My assistant doesn't think so, so I'm going to have to keep putting Duisen back in, but for me, he's the best one for the role we're going to use him in, so he's going to be starting our games in goal. Now, we've obviously got some issues at fullback, but I'll explain that again when we come to transfers. At the back line, I'm using the standard sort of stopper and cover approach that I've used many times before, and the main reason for that is because this tactic lacks a defensive midfielder. I need to make sure that I've got someone that can step forward and win the ball in this sort of area here, basically. And it's important, and it has worked for us so far. And obviously we've got Kotov here, who will drop back for any balls that go in behind. But not only that, because our fullback, Kabazov, is set to attacking, I want to make sure that if he does ever get caught out the pitch, Kotov can come across and close down that kind of area over here, just in case the ball is played in behind. And that seems to be how that's worked so far. Now, we've got one fullback on attack, one fullback on support, because frankly, we lacked a lot on the right-hand side of our defence. So we brought in another guy, but he's injured at the moment, I think, or is he's back here? He's still getting match fitness back, yeah. So we've had quite a few injuries in pre-season, which is a bit of a shit, but that sort of stuff happens. So I went with supporting fullback because we just lacked a bit on this right hand side, so we went for support this side and attack on the other, so that it was a little bit not asymmetric, but they always say that you should have one of your fullbacks. One of the things I was reading, and there's a guide as well, a PDF guide which you can download, which is to do with like the pairings, which I found very, very helpful. Less so with producing this one, but still, because obviously I don't really have so many pairings because there's a lot of singular players in areas, but for me, wingers and wide men are still pairings, just in a different kind of way. So hence why we've got support attack and then support attack in different kind of ways, because it seems to work quite nicely, and there's not too much on one side or too much on the other. So originally I had these two the other way around, found it worked better when I had them this side. So that's basically that. So the idea is that this sort of area will come to about here and get some crosses in, whereas Kabazov on the left-hand side is more likely to overlap and get crosses in from the byline. And he's just a better attacking player. He's got better crossing, all this sort of stuff. So that's why I'm using him in that kind of role. Now, we've got our sort of ball-winning midfield in the middle, and Zhuruzharov is so important for that because he's a defensive midfielder by trade, but he can play in the centre, and his best role obviously is a ball-winning midfielder. His plan, because he's on defence, is just to win that ball and distribute it to either our attacking playmakers or our two wingers. So that's his role, basically. Kukarchuk is one of the new boys, on the right-hand side, of course, providing width, and he will get right down there to the byline himself, and also potentially get himself in at the back post quite a lot. That's sort of the idea of him getting it forward like that. Whereas Mazriku is more of he's more of a creative player. He's going to be putting in more crosses than he is getting on the end of them, and making sure that we don't get caught out, particularly if Kabazov does overlap. We want to make sure that Mazriku can track back if need be. Next up, we've got Marjanovic, of course, who wouldn't normally be playing here. Usually Piev I've spent so long on this that I actually know all the players. Like, I know kind of exactly where their best positions are now. It's just it's done my head in. But believe me, if you're building a new tactic for a new team, definitely worth doing it. So yeah, Piev. The reason the way I came up with the shape as well was that my assistant, they suggest you some different shapes that work with your team. I figured, why not actually listen for once? I had a look at some of them. It wasn't quite. I mean, he actually wanted me to put them centrally and have it like a sort of really narrow triangle. I wanted a bit of width because I love a bit of width. So that's what we went with in the end. I just moved them out wide. And obviously we've brought in a couple to try to supplement that system. So yeah, then we've got our attacking playmaker here on support to basically just pick the ball up in this sort of hole area, although less so now. He's sort of operating slightly deeper than before. That's why he's on support, because the fact is he's there to spray balls around, just as he's here to distribute, to receive the ball from our ball-winning midfielder and play in the likes of Tungashbayev and Vlaiseljevic. Now, again, Marjanovic would usually play in the shadow striker role, because he's got that kind of long shot ability. He's got that running beyond kind of. He's a good shadow striker basically. But until Piev is fit, or until Botani is fit, we cannot have him in that position. So that's why we're lacking a few players at the moment. We've also got a fullback out injured, and Gilicevic I had to deregister in order to bring in Botani, and you'll see why in a minute. So that's basically that. Obviously, the shadow striker is there to supplement Tungashbayev up front, so to make sure we don't get too isolated up top, basically. And obviously Tungashbayev, standard advance forward on attacking. Now, the little worry for me is, of course, that he's not got the best heading. That being said, in our friendlies, he's still won a decent amount of decent amount of, headers. So I don't know if that's because he's got quite decent strength and his jumping reach isn't awful, so I wonder if that's why he's winning headers, but we'll have to see. I might try for a low cross approach at some point and see if that maybe makes it a little bit easier for him, like balls in behind, but it does depend hugely on who we're playing against. That much I've already worked out. Now, so that's basically what we're doing there. We're structured, controlled, or counter. Those are the two sort of, and I'll explain why in a minute. As for instructions, we've got shorter passing, work ball into box, and play out of defence. The reason I've got play out of defence is because at this level, if you're just lumping it downfield, you're immediately conceding possession, particularly if you don't have people that are strong in the air, and we're not exactly blessed for that. So we're playing out of defence. My goalkeeper is set to distribute to the fullbacks to immediately get the ball out there, rather than distributing to a playmaker, because that would be a long ball. I figured I'd just go into detail about this as to why, So that's why we're doing that. Obviously, work ball into the box is just another way of keeping possession and try to avoid lots of long shots. Exploiting the flanks, I didn't have that on initially because I wanted to see if we could play quite well wide without that. But I found that when we didn't have exploit the flanks on, everybody was coming inside and it wasn't what we want. They were sort of almost behaving like inside forwards. So I've told them to stay wide basically, and that seems to work better. As for defending, closing down less, I thought maybe closing down more would work because we'd harry them off the ball. Didn't work like that. Keeping our shape is clearly the best approach for us, and obviously a lower tempo just to increase the likelihood of us actually sort of not making silly mistakes. Basically, that's the idea with that one basically. So without further ado, I'm going to take you into the schedule and just show you what I'm talking about with the friendlies. Now, the reason we've got a massive issue, and that is the fact that you might notice that most of our friendlies against our under-19s and reserves. The reason for that is because literally there is only one team I was allowed to arrange friendlies against, and that is Cementnik Seme. And obviously you can't arrange too many friendlies with them because they just reject them all the time. So I found that arranging friendlies against our under-19s and reserves was great for building up match fitness, but absolutely useless when working out tactics, because they would be playing the same tactic as us, and even if I turned that off, my assistant tended to still play the same tactics. So I found that it was just a useless way of working it out. So the games that the only ones that really matter are the ones against Cementnik. Now I actually had to watch all of these games, apart from the Vostok one, I made a mistake with that, in full basically. And every 10 minutes I would pause it, take a look at some of the statistics, and change stuff with I really want it to work. Basically, I was determined to get it to work. And I feel like we're getting somewhere. Admittedly, we've beaten them 5-0 every time we've played them, but different things have happened that have made me more positive. Like this one, I think we were lucky to get the 5 goals that we did. This one, maybe less so. And this one, we were unlucky not to get more. I think we created like 11 clear-cut chances in this game, and that's what I like to see. Now, the problem is, because they're a lower division team, it's basically worthless as well, because I wanted to test this against the stronger opposition. Now the problem was, we were not allowed to arrange, it's the only team that would arrange a friendly with us, and they wouldn't even do that very often. Now I tried like just going choose other and selecting teams. The problem is, no other teams in Kazakhstan would even travel to where we are, because we're up near Siberia, and yeah, so it's quite problematic. So that's a real issue. But obviously, if you're building a tactic yourself, you won't have this issue in theory. You should be able to arrange plenty of friendlies, do a few against lower division teams, smaller teams to start off with, to get some confidence at, and also just so you can work out what works without too much pressure. Then when you're happy with it, start arranging it against teams of a similar level to you. That way you can test out maybe a bit more of a sort of game type situation. That's my suggestion on that one. Anyway, yeah, the Vostok one, unfortunately, because you usually have your assistant set to take charge of friendlies. Obviously, I took charge of these ones, but I forgot to turn it back off, and then I accidentally pressed continue, and it went straight past the Vostok game. So my assistant was in charge, and I didn't get a chance to really tinker, which is so frustrating, because they're a better team, and I would much rather have gone out and really, tinkered with things during that game. But you can't really do much about that. Anyway, I don't want to jabber on for too long about tactics, but I just thought I'd inform you guys on how I came, or it's nothing unusual, I'm sure, but like why I'm doing the things I'm doing, and rather than just saying, here's a tactic, this is what's happening, that's what I'm using. It's either going to be control or counter, depending on the type of system. I'm thinking, I've scouted this team, and they look like they're playing a 4-3-3 from what my scout said, so I'm worried, because my team, my reserve teams during the week played against the 4-3-3 of a similar team, and we got battered. So I'm a little bit worried. So I'm thinking maybe a counter-attacking approach might be slightly smarter, because it is against Astana, who came second last season. So yeah. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the transfers, because players have come in, of course, but it's not really quite as important. So Gilicevic came in from Sloga, Kukarchuk, but he's not registered, so it's really irrelevant. Kukarchuk, again, I didn't sign him, he was already arranged as a transfer before then, so that's fine. And it's great, because he can play in many positions. He can play up front if we need him to. He's more of a sort of, as you can see, deep line forward type of player, so perhaps not really what we need, but he does have good heading. Unfortunately, his things like, well, actually, I mean, for me, he's not a bad advanced forward either, if I'm honest. Okay, his heading isn't great, but it's better than, Tungashbayev, but he is very, very good out on this wing, and that's where I intend to kind of use him as a sort of, as an attacking winger. He's got good crossing, good dribbling, good first touch, nothing here below 10, which is crucial for me. Next up was Sayed Mazriku. Now, the reason I brought him in, because we're only allowed a certain number of foreign players, and I wanted to make sure that he was one of them, because I don't know how we managed to get him. I think one of our new scouts has got Dutch, because, I don't know, he was the only Dutch player that was listed in the entire scouting list I found, but hey, not I say I found in my scouting list, and he's a left-sided player, but the point is he is a left-sided player, and he is perfectly suited for me to play that supporting role. Okay, his crossing's not perfect, but everything else is really, really solid. Dribbling good, first touch good, and the fact is he's still done some good stuff in the friendly, so I'm quite pleased with him. Next up, these are basically some youngsters, because I had to sign a load of young players, because the board basically got on my back and said, you've promised to sign youngsters, and it was one of those things I forgot that I'd even done, because I figured, well, that's the type of style I usually do when I bring in youngsters anyway, so I should probably grab a few here. I brought in this guy because when Piev got injured, I felt like we needed someone to play there, and unfortunately he's out as well, but also vastly not as good as I thought he was going to be. But the one I'm really excited about, this is Mattea Botani. We do have an affiliate agreement with FC Thun, and I was not aware of that at first. So when they said, here's a load of players you can have on loan, I saw this guy. I was like, how are they letting us have a 4.5, 5-star player? But they are, and he's an advanced playmaker as well. Sorry, again, my mouse is just getting a little bit silly there. So again, when he comes back, is going to be able to play in there with Payev, because remember, Payev is 35 years old. So Matteo Botani, when he is fit again, and it shouldn't be too long, possibly not for the next game, but the one after, should be able to give us a real injection of that kind of... the key part of this system relies on him and our ball-winning midfielder getting ridiculously good pass completion, like 90 plus. And Piev, when he was playing, was getting sort of 93% pass completion. Now, the problem is, because he's been injured, we've had to shuffle stuff around, and Sojanovic is only sort of getting at 86, and that 7% makes a huge difference. Most of the rest are all like that, and of course, Glukov's gone out on loan. So... that's basically that. The season expectations for the season are to come mid-table again, so that's fine. The board did blame me for last season, but then this season it was as if it didn't matter, so I think it was just a bit of a glitch, so it is all totally fine. What else we got? Yeah. Guys were talking about mental stats, and I, of course, mentioned this on the first episode because I was getting a little bit annoyed at the fact that, we didn't have any regarding mental stats. So let's just take a little look at my profile here. There we go. So, as you can see, the media handling, I've been doing... better. We're up to 32% now, which is good. We're getting somewhere. But yeah, what I meant when I said mental stats didn't improve is what I was told is most of them will improve, except for the ones like discipline and man motivation. Those are the ones that I was told, if they do improve, only improve by 1 or 2 points. That could be a problem for us. That's what I was talking about. I know for a fact that some of you have already said that the other ones do improve, and I knew that. It was just those particular 2 that people were saying online that didn't improve, and if they did, it was by a tiny, a negligible amount, basically. Also, thank you for the reaction. With regarding the new team, because I was really worried that when we got sacked from Zurich, that people would get really, I don't know, because I was really happy there, and I felt like it was total crap, but you have to move on. I was just worried that it might, I don't know, ruin the series a little bit, but I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to do okay here. There are some still issues here. Obviously, the thing with the friendlies is a bit of a bastard. One other thing before we get into today's game. I had a few players that wanted new contracts, basically. Usually... they don't ask for new contracts unless they're playing well or have had a good game or something. But over the sort of Christmas period, a couple of players came and said they wanted new contracts. And one of which I obviously gave them because they were good players and I wanted to keep them. One of them was quite a good young prospect. And then... on the day that I said, signed a new contract worth blah, 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 the next news item after that was him wanting to discuss leaving. And I was like, what? So I went into the conversation. He's like, I've heard this team are interested in me. They weren't. Never received a bid for him from any teams. I want to leave. And I was like, well, they haven't even put a bid in. He's like, no, that's not acceptable. This is just a courtesy. I'm like, you've just signed a new contract. You asked for the new contract. I hate it. And the problem is, again, ended up with him wanting to leave because we can't control the players. And that is a real issue. I really don't know how we've only got... how we've actually got 40% on that, considering we've never had an agreement, have a discussion with a player that didn't regard them leaving. So anyway, I don't want this episode to go on for too long, but I hope you can understand why, because I really did want to explain the tactic in a little bit more depth than usual. Basically. So, let's get into this today, and let's see if they are actually playing a 4-3-3 like I thought they might be. Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't actually mean anything. They are away from home, so they may not actually turn up with this. We've had this sort of thing before. But that being said, I'm still going to go counter to start with, because Astana are one of the big sides in this division. They came second last year, and I want to make sure that we've got enough in the tank to actually... yeah. So, I do still have the second tactic going. As you can see, I've made a few changes to it, but I'm... not happy with it at the moment. I think that's going to need a little bit more work and might have to come from just sort of desperation more than anything. So we're going to try and persist with this one for now. Hopefully by switching from counter and control we can at least have decent home and away at the moment. The other change I made is in Kazakhstan you can have your pitch size stupidly tiny. Like absurdly tiny, and as a result I have made our pitch as small as is physically possible, because it means that we're not going to get caught out behind so much, and it means that it's useful for this sort of possession game that we like to play, basically. So that's the plan, and it's going to allow us to squeeze teams without actually pressing them as much, so we can still be closing them down more, but without actually having the instruction and getting the shape all torn out. So it's going to be different. Let's just do a quick pick, but I'm going to shuffle some stuff around anyway. For example, my assistant doesn't rate this goalkeeper, but for me, he's one of our better goalkeepers. Like, look, it's negligible the difference, and for me, he's a better goalkeeper. Just looking at the stats compared for the role, like, you can do a comparison. When we have a full strength back, we will have Dimitrovic here, and we will have Kotov will play in the covering role, and lastly, of course, Payev will be here, and Marjanovic will be in here. But other than that, that's sort of full strength for us, and I'm pretty pleased with how we're going. So, without further ado, let's do this. We are the favourites, so I guess that's something. If I got all the settings right. Sorry, I've been doing a lot on that. I actually watched it on split with the stats on one side, even though I realised that I could just have the stat bar up, and didn't occur to me until right at the end. Tunnel interview. I didn't decide to drop him. He's not match fit. He's been out for 5 weeks. Just been rested, I suppose. I'm confident. Yeah, we've had a pre-season. Real statement of our intentions. Yep, good stuff. Right, they are playing 4-3-3. Jesus, right, let's hope this works. Notice, my assistant's back, and he's actually doing it. I don't know what's changed, but it has, and he's back. And oh, my life is happy. I'm glad that Konstantin Friedental, that man gets his teeth done for the free. I notice how there's like an apostrophe after his name, which I find really odd. And I thought that was part of that, but it actually is part of his name, which is really strange. Let's just do a quick check here. Yep. I found that during friendlies, like, because I don't normally take charge of friendlies, there wasn't really an instruction I could use to motivate them, because every time I said go out there and win your place, they were like, meh, we hate you. So yeah, that was a little bit annoying. Wait, not control, I want counter. That's poor. That could have been a bit of a dangerous one there. They're a good side. We need to be very careful here. And I feel like when I've tried this, like I have tried with counter, and it's difficult to try counter out against poor teams because they just don't come out. But when I did try it, what I found was when they did get the ball up the pitch, and that was rare, we could break like ridiculously fast, like a swarm. And it was surprised because I never knew how you could get your players to do that, but I think I figured it out. So that's pleasant. Start the match. I think I was meant to press something else, wasn't I? I don't know. Right, let's just go for this. Sorry, I've got that stretched right out from where I was looking at all the different statistics. I still want to be able to see pass completion. Right, let's see. 11 minutes gone. We're starting with Tungish Bayev. Oh, yes, back post. Lovely stuff. 1-0 after 11 minutes. That's the start we needed. Kukarchuk coming in at the far post. Like I said, I think it was Mazriku's ball as well, winger to winger. But it has been... We're getting a lot of possession, and our pass completion is higher, and that's basically the key. If we can maintain a decent level of pass completion and a decent level of possession, then we generally win the games. That's what I'm thinking. Mazriku's ball to the back post, and there, Kukarchuk just completely bypassing all the other players in the team, but a solid start for us. And now, because we're on counter, we can just absorb the pressure and spring on them. That's the plan anyway. And it looks like we've started off quite well. Hopefully we won't get some silliness here. Pinchuk. And trying to keep your... Oh, there we go. Dweezin makes the save. So, a strong start. Remember, Astana came second last year. This is a really solid start for us. Long ball now, Phil. Oh, my goodness. What about that? Tungish Bayev through. Oh, what a chance that was. 2 half chances, 2 clear cuts, lots of possession. This is perfect. I didn't expect it to work as well as this. It's really difficult to tell when you're playing against the lower division team how well it's going to work when you transfer it to a bigger one. Like, yeah, sure, we can beat those teams 5-0, but that does not translate when you're playing against a good side. Mazriku goes back. And remember, this is still missing quite a lot of the players. Like, what was that? Still missing quite a lot of the players I actually want to use for the system. Marjanovic round the corner for Tungish Bayev, and he's missed it, amazingly. 3 clear-cut chances, 2 half chances, and we're still only a goal up, though. That is the issue for me. I do worry that could come back and bite us, because we've been phenomenal so far. Just close you down a little bit. That is a beautiful first half. Literally, everything I could have wanted out of the team happened. And the great thing about this counter-attacking approach is we don't even have to change much, because if they come at us a little bit more, we're still set up to handle it, but if anything, it's going to enable us to get a little bit better. Now, one thing I have been tempted to try is putting pass into space on when that happens, but I'm not sure. We might try that later in the game, depending on how things are going, because apparently, from what I was reading, that when you've got this sort of situations, if you turn it on, it's basically just a ball over the top, like that one for Tungish Bayev. But it seems that the team are kind of doing that anyway, rather than me having to tell them that. So maybe I should just leave it off, and the less instructions, the better. Mazriku, go on, get that ball in. There we go, Marjanovic. And Mazriku, oh, back to Jules. Oh, wow. So, nice quick play on the edge of the area, actually. Oh, don't be silly. Win that. There we go. That's what I mean about that cover play. Getting in behind when my defenders are slightly further upfield. I think everything's sort of working quite well at the moment. There's a sort of decent cohesive unit. They all kind of know what they're doing, and I think that's more so than any other tactic I've used so far on this save. That's a lovely play from him. Ball across the box. Kukarchuk at the back post again. It's 2-0. Oh, yes, here we go. Guys, I'm not going to jinx it by saying anything, actually, because this could still go horribly wrong. But remember, Astana, second in the league last year. Apologies for that, guys. I don't know what even happened there. FM minimised, and I'm going to be very, very careful. I'm going to save before I finish this recording, because that was a little bit worrying. I think it might have just been Skype messing up in the background, but that was a little bit worrying that it would even do that. So, yeah, apologies if there was a little bit of a cut-off there. Bandicam automatically cuts off the recording when you like minimize the window. It's quite a useful feature, as we've seen before. Right, what changes can we make? I want to be careful here. I think Tungish Bai has not actually done a great job. Is he better? Why can I not click on him? What are we doing here? What's his heading like? 8. Okay, maybe able to win a few more in the air for us actually, which could be quite useful in the sort of long run here. I've probably been Kulbuntsov on. He was one. He's one of our youngsters, I think. Haven't used him much in the friendlies. I didn't make a lot of substitutions in the friendlies, really, because I was kind of determined to play with the team that we had. This is a really solid performance from us so far. Is this our corner? Yes, it is. Oh, look at the space. Go on, have a shot. Oh, what a save. Oh, what a chance. Look at that. 5 clear cuts, 6 half chances, 18 shots, 7... I'm in dreamland right now, guys. Nothing is more satisfying than actually spending all that time working on something and then to see it actually work. I'm sure you know what I mean, but that's just phenomenal. Oh, wait, no. Please don't be serious. Kukarchuk! Oh, what a save again. Right, we're going to have to bring him off, aren't we? Have we got another substitution? I don't know why I said substitution really weirdly there. Osmanov will have to come on, but he's really useless in that position. Now, that better not be serious, because I don't know if Payev's going to be ready to play just yet, and neither is our Swiss import. So, are you joking? Oh, mate. I mean, we're winning the game, and that's great, but that's all our subs gone as well. That position is a real problem. If we can get a clean sheet today, that'd be... Oh, come on! You couldn't write this shit, could you? So we're going to do the last... Let's just... No, actually, never mind. We're going to get through this, but 9 men we're down to here. That's a shocker. There we go. We've won at 2-0, but... I mean, we probably deserved even more goals, and it's a great performance, but I'm worried now. We've got 3 serious injuries in the 90th... Oh, my God. Oh, dear. Right. Kukarchuk, fantastic performance for him. Just a genuinely fantastic start to the season. If we can play like this throughout, I feel like there's no problem with us getting in the top 6. What we do away from home could end up being a little bit different, although I'm thinking maybe a counter-attacking approach could work. I'm thinking counter-attacking for the away games, unless they're really poor teams, and control for the home games, but with, like, unless we're playing against teams like Astana or Karat or Aktobi or even Shakhtar, those 4 maybe just go with what we're doing. But Jesus, I really hope the recording hasn't messed up. That would be pissing annoying, because I'm really stoked to win that. But let's actually check the seriousness of the injuries. That's quite important. I'm just going to let this go on. Unfortunately, the game's got a lot slower, I've found, since the latest update for me, as you can tell, because usually we'd have gone past this bit by now. So I'm hoping it's nothing too serious, but... well, that is actually taking its sweet-ass time. There we go. Jesus. Right, okay, let's quickly check our inbox here. Please be nothing serious. We've got some loan offers. Ospanov. Twisted knee. Jesus. At least it's only our second choice one. That's okay. The other 2 are the ones I really cannot afford to lose right now. They're so important for us. Ospanov, he's a striker, and I just employed him there as a kind of last resort, so it's shit that he's injured, but it's not so bad. Anyway, let's see. What's our next game going to be? I'm thinking this home game here, against, I apologise, Kizilzar? I think they're newly promoted. They're 11th in the league at the moment. I'm thinking a nice home game would do us some good. We've still got some... Well, we're kind of going home away, home away, home away. But we've got Kairat in there and Shakhtar. But we'll have to see. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Finally nice to actually see us bloody win a game. Hopefully that can be the sort of sign of things to come this season. And hopefully this new tactic will take shape. What do you think would be better for the shape that we're doing? Do you think control, like, all the time, or counter all the time? Or maybe a variation depending on who we're playing, because that seems to be the best way of controlling the tactic, is to use the mentality. And because we've got our other tactic as a counter tactic, it means we're already sort of fluid in it. So guys, pardon me, if you like what you're seeing, please do drop a like on the video, and if you'd like to even more than that, please subscribe to my channel for more Red Star and Outcaster icons in your inbox every single day at 5:30 and 8 o'clock, and I will see you guys in the next episode for the home match against Kizilzar. Hopefully another win on the cards for that one, maybe with a few more goals, who knows. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.